Boy, Aboshishi, to all viewers and members, again another of Orisa conversation with I, Baba Melo, and Ifa Bemiro, having a conversation as to the Orisa tradition and its growth in Trinidad and Tobago. So, how you going, brother?
I am well by Oludumare and Ifa. Thanks for having me on your program as usual.
All right. Somebody was asking as to why we don't start with a prayer. So I tell them, I say in conversation, we don't pray. We leave our praying, but everything we do that is righteous is a prayer. So the people who ask it about prayers, everything we do is prayer because it's words giving guidance to people and helping us to find our truth.
All right, well, then, if the person asking about prayers, and as you rightfully say,
Yeah,
our prayer is our service to humanity, and
that's
this is
it.
the way that we honor our ancestors by living in the fashion that they live. But
That's,
interestingly enough, tonight, although you mentioned the word prayers, because we're going to read something from an essay, Ifa,
yeah.
that is Owori Obara,
Mm.
right? And I'm going to read it now. It reads, Owori was the son of the Oba of his community. Owo was not known for his wealth because he only had enough for his bare survival. He was, however, known for his wisdom, humility, understanding, hard work, sympathy, and consideration for others. When his father died, many people wanted him to ascend the throne of his forefather. This that with his wisdom and other qualities, he would be able to steer the ship of their community to peace, progress, and prosperity. There was another group, however, who felt that without money or war was not fit to ascend the throne. Among this group were the kingmakers and the other persons they had in mind. This person knew that he was not entitled to the stool, but because he had money, he and his supporters believed that money could do anything and everything. In the case of Owo, he told the people not to agitate for him to become the Oba because he did not have the money expected of him to spend before he assumed the throne. His supporters said that he was being proposed because of his sterling qualities. The kingmakers demanded for and got money from the other group and made the other man the Oba. Excuse me.
That's true.
Before long, the whole town was engulfed in chaos. There were internal strifes and external aggression. The economy of the town was in shambles. Where they were expected to use diplomacy, they would employ confrontation. Where they were to use dialogue, they would prefer military expedition. Where they were to be magnanimous, they would twist the arm of the citizenry. It reached a stage where everybody was fed up with the Oba and his council of chiefs. The community was raging war on several fronts. Other communities feared and loathed the king. When the matter reached a head, the citizens of this community grouped together, banished Oba and his chief. Once again, they went to beg Owo to assume the throne. He again complained of lack of money. This time around, the whole community told Owo that the community was not looking for his wealth, but his wisdom and sense of organization. Soon after this encounter, they made him the Oba. Immediately after ascending the throne, he went into action. All military campaigns were stopped, and in their stead, they opted for dialogue. They resolved all external problems with dialogue and refined diplomacy. They resolved internal strife with honesty and purpose. So this is Wari Obara. All right. Any other questions, by the way, that the person had for you beside?
Well, Mr. Boy, well, I think that answers a lot within what our people are looking for in terms of leadership. Because most of the people who we really try to emulate as our leadership is those are who most likely are overwhelmed, endowed with their wealth, right?
Okay.
But in trueness, very few, if any, would sacrifice that wealth to really make a stand to step out or go way beyond within the community to say, okay, I will give. Because yet we're still looking for land, even though were given land by government in, I'll say, well, areas, I have to say unknown because we have not labeled or identified it nowhere. But how much of our leaders have really offered us a space? Take this lot of land or take this old house or take this space and use it as the headquarters in which we could build that leadership, that we could really say we could establish our ownership. Because we have been a headless chicken for many years.
Okay, but
Uh,
in the particular Udu,
mm,
I'm gonna reread the qualities that Owo had
yeah,
because I think these are the measures of good leadership.
yeah.
It's not about money,
Mm,
not about who could
yeah.
fly to Africa and come back with all kind of titles. It's about having individuals with good character because
You
that
are
is what I
Pele,
think
you
was.
are Rere.
That's right.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I
Mm,
think that is what was outstanding about the individual mentioned in this essay, Ifa, who was Owo. These
mm,
are the qualities he had. Right. They said he was known for his wisdom, humility, understanding, hard work, sympathy, and consideration for others.
mm,
Right? Now, beside him having these qualities, one of the important things at the bottom of the essay, down to the end, it said when he got into the Obership position, being the titled Ober, and he went into action, the first thing he did is he stopped all the wars and he chose to have dialogue. And
mm.
then it say he went further to quash all the internal problems that they had too, right? And it was resolved with honesty and purpose, right? So the reason I'm rereading this is because within the framework of this essay, Ifa, it highlights the type of qualities that a leader should have, and it also, I think, emphasizes down to the end the importance of us not fighting among ourselves. Because I think up above you mentioned the fact that there was so much internal strife among members of that community that it made them vulnerable to attack from outside communities. And this really is the dilemma
True.
that we face right here in Trinidad. We fight so much among ourselves that it is easy for those who don't want to see us progress to attack us.
But well, we are so caught up in fighting, we don't even see where the attack is. You know, because these are the things which we have to emphasize. Because if we try to promote Iwapele to those who want to now join into, we some of them think Iwapele means to just be a good servant.
Hmm.
You know, I just tell them no, it's not that. Is that you have to establish a character that identify you from the rest, and that means you supposed to have a higher quality than those that are not measured as people who has character. Is that saying have character and don't try to be a character, because we have a lot of people who tries to be a character. You know, they want to be a Superman, a Spider-Man, a Wonder Woman,
They want to
rather
be,
than
they want to be an actor.
actor. You understand? So they always want to be a character in a role, but they never really want to let their character emulate their role, that we can say, hey, this person really has the character for the position which we looking to fill and has somebody to lead. You know, leadership is to be earned and not paid for.
Well, I think the essay Ifa mentions that because talk
Yeah.
about the person who became the Oba and his supporters thought that money could have bought everything. It might have been, it bought him the title of Oba, but yet he was not able to deliver anything. He wasn't able to produce results because, note well, in the beginning, one of the things they noted, they mentioned as one of the qualities of Owo that would have made him a good leader is that he worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
And by work hard, they mean his works produce the results that were visible.
Yeah,
Because
see.
performance always beat old talk.
Always,
Right.
except some places in Trinidad, right? You pay your way, you get emulated, and this is what we have to look at as society, because in building the Ifarisha community, I always tell people we are a reflection of the external community. So in terms of building a community, are we going to have the same characteristic as the external community, or are we going to be the community which people wish to emulate? You know, when we come together, do we come together to share wisdom, or we come together to say who should hold a position and who not qualified for a position? You know, so in following as the Odu has the essay Odu has revealed, Owo use his talents and his character. The other Obas wanted to use their resources. So when you look at it, in using my resource, I have to protect my resources. So in protecting my resources, I cannot trust nobody. I cannot think I should negotiate with anybody, because if I negotiate, this one say, well, here what? I only have 10 workers, but I have no money to pay them. What about I bring the workers and you pay them? Then say, nah, but you ain't putting no money in this. So you don't have a problem in negotiating,
Okay, but
because
then
I thinking of my investment.
I think there is an important thing that must be mentioned because the wealth of a community is not really in one individual, it's in the
True.
collective, it's in the
Collective,
community making
collective.
an effort. But what I'm going to do, the essay, if I had a conclusion that would have referred to a person if they were having a divination done. So let me just read just that little piece that closes off the essay, Ifa,
All right.
and then we will get a little bit more of what we're discussing. This is how it ends. It talk about magnanimity and benevolence. It said before long, the economy began to improve. The community then realized that it was not possible for the economy to improve where there was war, strife, and conflict. Everybody had more than enough to eat, drink, and wear. They were all praising our war. They were equally condemning those who hitherto felt money could buy progress and happiness for the community. And this is how the essay IFA ends.
That's yeah,
So
shame.
therefore, yeah. So therefore, it talks a lot about the fact that when people not fighting one another, when people not condemning one another, when people not at difference to each other and is in conflict with each other, you are able to accomplish things with the absence of those things. You are able to unite, you are able to make more progress, you are able to have more food in your plate. That is what the SAIFA says.
Of course.
So having a sense of community means having a greater sense of unity. It means not fighting each other, not having strife, not having wars, you know? And then, the question is how relevant is that to our situation in this country? Beside the leadership issues that we just pointed out, what about people being able to get along with each other, free of strife, free of conflict?
Well, one of the things we have to look at in terms of, we have to start to be more truthful as to our community, be able to clearly identify who we are. It comes simple as when we ask that who's initiated and and who's not initiated. Who's initiated at what level? Because remember, you have different levels of initiation. It are different groups of IFA initiations.
No, well, as the last stream we had,
Uh,
I took a lot of odds to that idea that initiation is this or
uh,
initiation is that, and the reason that I had an issue with that is because I am convinced, right, that initiation is a series of actions
yeah, yeah.
that
No,
brings a person into a certain stage of life. Hold on, let me finish.
yeah.
So therefore, the ritual that we just call initiation is only one form of initiation. That's a ritual initiation. The way in which a person lived their life, the actions that they do on a daily basis that other people can witness is also an initiation.
Exactly.
All right, so now you could go ahead and
Right.
finish the
Right.
way.
So when I say we have to look at the different levels of initiation, just as you're saying, when you enter into any level of society, you're initiated at a certain level. That level is for you to understand where you are and what that level contains.
And how you're
When you
supposed
enter
to
to a
function.
next level, because if you reach at a level in your initiation, you have initiated into, let me just say, not divine, let me say diviners then. You're initiated as a diviner. And you have learned all the rules of divining. Are you going to stay just there recycling the same rules of diviner, or are you going to try to take a next level? No, let me take that divination and go into healing. When you have mastered healing, you take it to a next level. Well, let me take it into social engineering. All right. So when people initiate, what level were you at when you initiated? In terms of you now initiate into a new order. Have you mastered the last order to make contribution that now when you enter into this new order, how can you contribute from your past experience to take the same society to a different level?
Well, I don't know that many people in Trinidad
Mm.
who become initiated view it in the same light of how you just described it. And I would say that there are people also who take their responsibility very seriously. So I don't want it to make it sound like if everybody is a joker.
Mm.
Because there are even persons who are not initiated, ritually initiated, that takes their entry into the tradition very seriously.
Sure.
And they are developing and they are working very hard and they are following the tradition.
Right. But you
But
know
the
the
many
first,
of the members, they're not ritually initiated, so they're not initiated.
what would it be? What the first, let me see, initiation ritual is welcoming. You never studied that way.
No, well,
No, what
when,
was the outside of the ritualistic part of going directly into a particular thing, welcoming somebody into your space. That is the first initiation because now they want to grasp, they want to know more, and they want to be part of the family.
well, yes, but
Right?
then remember, yes, and did I say first impressions are
Only
lasting impression?
that's the impressions.
So the question is, when a person come into your space for the first time, what type of welcoming do they get?
And that is what I say that is your first initiation because now that person with whatever potential they would come in, not being packed, they could be of a great contribution into the same tradition that they are not initiated through ritual ceremonial initiation, so that when they do their ceremonial initiation, they make a greater contribution than somebody who could say they were born into it.
Well,
Right?
Baba, you introducing a next level of
Yeah.
conflict that occurs regularly.
Mm.
Because I can remember my own self.
Yeah.
Many people they refer to me as a newcomer. They say, "Oh, he just come here.
Yeah.
Oh, he know about this thing."
Mm.
Because you will always hear me say, "Well, my father was a pastor." You know? But most time you wouldn't hear me say about my mother.
You say,
Because
brother.
my mother born into the
Yeah.
tradition.
So you're born in
Mothers,
it in your blood.
well, I just be very careful to say that.
Uh, uh,
Okay. And the reason I just be careful to say that is because if you don't say, you now come and you're chupity.
mm,
And if you say, you're boastful and you're bragging.
true, true.
So most times all I just do is I just say, listen, my father was a pastor, I grew up in the church.
Right.
But I hardly ever speaks about my mom.
Mm,
But all that I have experienced in the tradition was explained to me to my mother since I was a young child. All of her experiences, she spoke of them openly, whether my father was pastor or not.
yeah.
She talked about how she grew up and the different things that she experienced. She talked about spending time by her aunt in Labrie that also had a shrine.
Mm,
Okay? She also spoke about her aunt in Laventy that had a shrine. So to many people, I'm new, and yes, to the faces of all the local practitioners who have been seeing me around for the last 4 years, to them, I am
mm.
to
No,
them,
but
I am a stranger. To
yeah,
them,
straight.
I don't know
True.
anything. But you know
Mm,
what? I've been studying African tradition for well over 20 years.
right.
So all the information that I'm now coming into as far as the local practice is concerned, I've been studying these things for years. So
Right.
it's not totally foreign to me. However, the way in which it is practiced in this country is new to me.
Right.
Right?
Now it is not new, right? It is just not properly recorded. But we ain't gonna go into that yet. But what I'm
No,
saying, so
well, to me it's new because what I'm
yeah,
saying here, I have studied material on
right.
Orisa tradition from many countries in the diaspora and from the motherland and the
Yeah.
fatherland.
Mm,
Okay? But Trinidad part, a portion of it, is not well documented, so I haven't been privy while living abroad to the
yeah.
received information that
Yeah,
gives
that's
the
what I said. Is that new? Not it's just not properly recorded. But now going back to what I was saying in terms of that initiation in your first communion, they didn't that initiation which they did not give to you. But now here you are contributing.
No, but
Oh,
yeah, understand.
no, no,
I,
I understand it.
I
Though.
even had a recent encounter where I was asked, "Are you initiated by
Yeah.
an
No,
elder?"
but that's what I'm saying. When people look at the ritual, the ceremonial
Initiation. No, but
initiation,
that is only one part
right?
of it. That is only one
Akosher,
part of it.
right. So the Issefa, the Akosher, the what was the local name you was given me the other day, which I hear so long and I don't even know your name.
Which one?
Simberi.
Singberry. Yes, I
Simberi.
went with a gash the head.
Right. They
But
guess what? That's
the head, the head.
right. So
Um,
it connects, say, with the Yoruba in terms of the same, the use connecting with the Ori.
it
Like
is
for
the
that.
same. My brother is the
So
same thing.
the same as the
We
Ori
got it.
too.
We got it from
Right.
Nigeria.
Right.
The
So
only
let put it
difference
this
is
way. If it is that we can say our history or our situation here today as Orisha worshippers that would have all the syncretism and all the actions that are in it is because we were preserving something.
my brother.
In the,
I
no, no,
believe, I
yeah,
believe. I
yeah,
sorry to keep cutting you so, but I believe
mm,
that we have preserved in this country for the 500 years
mm.
more here than what has been preserved in Nigeria.
No, no, I'm saying I'm coming to that because I'm saying
All
what we
right.
preserve in the syncretism, if we cut off the syncretism that you are using to hide and cover what we have preserved, we will see all the elements of the tradition, the original thing there. We just did not carry the records or the hidden grimoire was not revealed. We didn't have that copy. So those that preserved, we preserved it, but we didn't preserve it with the proper understanding. The Nigerian today, as I just tell them plainly, is not no insult to them, but they just had the language. And if we go to take our improper Trini twang and realize, but wait now, we've been using our Yoruba, but we just had it mixed up. So when you say hear the Rasta in the river and the ball in the whoa, when you think if that sensation they can't explain, whoa, ja, There's a mystery in this feeling that they can't express. You understand? When
Yeah.
Bob Marley sing I, he was saying the same Ire. He
All
feeling
right.
blessed, 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 blessed.
Okay.
But
But
with the English indoctrination and the English language not understanding the Yoruba language, so when the Nigerian come, all they do is just showing us. When we say, hey, you are ra, hey, it mean I'm giving recognition, I'm calling your attention. And we say, hey, come here, boy, hey. So we always had it in our cultural expression, but never connected to our original essence of our Yoruba ancestry.
all right. Well, then I want to differ with you in
Uh,
my opinion, in your opinion and my opinion a little bit. I'm going to share something with you. There is an author, a Trinidadian, but I think she
mm.
lives in Barbados now by the name of Maureen Warner Lewis.
Yeah.
She has a book called the Trinidad Yoruba
That Yoruba.
Dictionary.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I
in
know.
the dictionary, she makes the comparison to the way they speak in certain parts of Nigeria, most likely the parts where we come from, like Oyo. I
Mm.
mean, we come from an Ibadan and several other places, but she
Yeah.
makes the comparison and she shows that there is a great similarity. Now, as far as the differences that may have taken place between how we spoke here and how they speak now today in Nigeria, I do not know that what they speak is purer than what we spoke here. And let me tell you why I would say that.
Mm.
Nigeria is a country where over 140 something different languages are spoken.
What's the
There are,
dialects they say?
right. There are
Yeah.
many different tribes of people
Mm-hmm.
living in Nigeria. There has been the incursion of both Islam and Christianity in Nigeria.
True.
There has been a lot of migratory patterns where you had people who come from other parts of Africa moved into Nigeria, including the Wolof and
Mm.
other ethnic groups from other parts of Africa, as a result of which they influence the language. Islam has
Mm.
influenced the
Yeah,
language.
the
So
language. Mm.
therefore, where their language has gone through many alterations, then you had colonial rule,
Mm.
which brought some kind of a formal structure to their language that is similar to English.
Yeah.
We in Trinidad, who brought the language here and spoke it here, did not have all those factors to bring about changes in the language. So some of the songs we sing in the old Trinidad Yoruba dialect is close to as pure as it was sung back in Oyo in the times that we left. Some of the
Mm.
practices that we have would be very close to what we brought when we came from there. Now,
Mm.
the variations may have occurred when you have other Africans that also came here to the Caribbean.
True. That way we are the Saraka and whatnot.
Right. But the fact remains on the historical records that
Mm.
at the end of slavery, you had large amounts of migrants coming in from Oyo and other places as free people that would have given an injection to the practice in Trinidad. And what do I mean by injection? They would have brought and reinstated what was lost.
Mm.
So therefore, I would differ with anybody who would say that what we practice here might be more watered down than what they have in Nigeria. I totally
Yeah.
disagree. Right? So
No,
I
what?
want to point
Yeah.
that. So go ahead.
Right. What when I say water down in terms of not well I won't say water down, but I say in terms of their influence, it encourages us to know to really tap in and connect with our thing by hearing the tonals and the expression of the different tones and how we connect our tones with the words. So, because some of our singing is more, as I say, influenced by other vibrational musical forms. So it may not be connected because I say even in the German, I don't like to hear Nigerian German. Because to me it don't make sense. I grew up into music. I grew up German. So even as a polyrhythmic, I just say, what is it? Which rhythm are they really playing? Because better than and then you, so understand that they are just communicating the language. But in terms of our rhythmic development of our music, we just go with a flow that takes even when the manifestation come at the manifestation, dance and enjoy themselves. Their manifestation just run through the tongue and just greet everybody, and it it don't really has that connection. But where we as a society, in terms of building the community, unless we can truly connect and give strength to what we have, just as yes, as I tell somebody, so if you have to learn French, where would you learn it? You have to learn it from a French book. You learn Spanish, you learn from a Spanish book. You learn Yoruba, you learn it from a Yoruba book. So you get the basic concept and understanding of the development of the language. Then connect our language, because Baba Otunde, he's a good preserver of our songs. Yeah, Baba Okan. They have some historical. Why are we not coming together to hold them in a session and have them properly recorded, the history that they know? When we say, oh, Ricky, why are we still calling Baba so from Oderemo, Bojuba, Baba so from Sheke Oshogbo? Why? It's not that we shouldn't respect them, but along the calling of respect for the elders in our Iba, let us be able to call also our elders and identify their history. Make their Ricky, have their Ricky that we can say, okay, Baba Ford, Baba Jeffrey Bedu, Andrew Bedu, all these are historians. Ma this, Ma Fani. We could call a lot of names
All
and
right.
connect their
Now,
Ricky.
now I want to agree with you, but you might be walking on some
Uh,
dangerous waters, right?
well,
Where I would strengthen your argument and would agree with you is on this point. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have ancestors who has already passed on,
mm-hmm.
functioned effectively in the community and produced a lot of result and had a lot of influence on the wider society. And I believe it is very important that we venerate these elders and these ancestors so that what we do would meet success.
Mm-hmm.
Because our ancestors are the ones who have left a beaten track for us to follow in the tradition.
Yes.
When we do not venerate them and we do not honor them, how do we expect to see progress, prosperity, and success in what we do? Our ancestors are the ones who have led the way, and they are the ones who continually support what we do. So therefore, it is very important for us
It is.
to neglect them to adopt somebody else's, whether it is in the form of Christianity or anything else.
Yeah, true.
So this is where I support your point.
Yeah, because remember when you talk about leadership, we have not just see everybody just seeing the leadership about who should lead, but let me say who should follow. You want a collective body to follow. You want a disciplined body to follow. You want something to that somebody could desire to be part of. I just always ask the question when I look at our events and things, what do we have for the children? What do we have for the young teens to emulate that they want to be part of the tradition? Other than just to beat a drum and sing song and see somebody catch a spirit. Other than that, do you want a child want to have one of this? How would we encourage the desire to want to have a shaker that they could, or a Kong, the Kong to beat? How do we encourage the child to really want to learn to not just play drum, to sing their Riki, sing a Riki at their family? Somebody's keeping ancestor prayers, first I just tell them, make a list of your ancestors and write what you think good and should be remembered about them. Because when the prayers start, I know Jesus and nobody knocking, but you say you want to celebrate your ancestors, so the evening would be recognizing your ancestors. What good is so while you're talking, I think I go bring a little song while I'm a little calypso partner, bring a little, you know what they call it, a little extempo
I
about
love
the
man, I
family.
love we.
Yes, sir. Love way, because this is what when we listen to them Nigerian and the chanting and it's about them business. The mother, the father, the grandfather. This is how this village was made, and they tell the story about the village and the elders of the village. We
Yes.
keep an ancestor prayers, and we don't even hardly hear people call the name of the family that build the foundation that you're keeping your prayers in the house.
It's true. It's true. You're
But that
correct.
has been done in the community.
You're absolutely correct, my brother.
Right? So it is so as leaders, I think we had to look more than just to be the person to stand up in the crowd to tell the crowd if to sit and if to stand. It is really how are we going to guide them to move our society from one level to the next. I- I'm
How,
watching.
how we are able to initiate our society, because that is what initiation
Yeah,
represents. It
you understand?
represents the development from one stage
One stage to
to
the
another
next.
stage.
Take us through our rise up. Because everybody like to sing it. As now it coming like a team song. Awa o soro ile wa o. Awa o soro ile wa o. Ẹ̀sìn ká kò pé óye. Ẹ̀sìn ká kò pé káwa má sọ̀rọ̀. Awa o soro ile wa o. Nothing shall take us from our traditional rites. But why are we not having more rites of passage rituals? And if we say nothing should take us from our traditional rites. Our traditional rights start by initiating others. For me to grow, I have to initiate others. As I initiate and I give them what I know now, it gives me space that I could go to the next level. If I'm not passing on nothing, where could I go to be at another level? Because I'm still holding on to yesterday. I can't move till tomorrow, till we have to let go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we addressed plenty so far. But what
Yeah.
what other questions the person had in the class, or
No,
that you communicated with?
well, one of the things in terms of, especially in this situation with the economics and the pandemics and all these scenarios happen, we see a lot of groups is forming in terms of the susu concepts or the economic concept. I think you did a number of video giving people guidance in terms of economic investments in the tradition. One I think that we has always lacked, and I think this is something where we need to at least address more in terms of leadership in our economic growth and development. Because while you may share information, I'm not seeing the other elders that are really trying to support the ideas at different level. If you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, but I want you to comprehend a few things, right? I will talk a little bit about economics, but I want I want you to understand that our people, because of the history and the duration of time that we spent in captivity and in oppression in the diaspora, it has done a lot of psychological damage on our people, right? And among our people, this would also include many of the leaders that we have. Not just the followers, it would have affected the leaders also. So that's the first and most important consideration I think we should have before we even start discussing
Well,
economics.
it leads me to put is a statement I would use. People may condemn it. If I am not liberated, I cannot liberate others.
All right. And I totally I agree. I agree 100%.
Right?
But then once we talk in liberation, we have to know specifically what we're talking about.
Right. No, no, well,
Because when you're talking liberation, you're talking about people being able to function with a certain level of what is called autonomy. You're talking
well,
about people. Go ahead.
let me make it simple. Free will.
All right.
That- yeah.
You use it. You see, I don't want we to use too much terms without explaining them.
Yeah.
That is going to be clear in the minds of.
Right.
All right. Now, when I talk about autonomy, I'm talking about a person's ability to make a decision for themselves that is for their and their community's best interests.
Yeah.
Having that power over one's self. Now, when you compare this concept of autonomy to the concept of freedom, someone being free simply means they have the right to make choice on their own. It doesn't necessarily mean that their actions is not controlled. And let me explain what I mean by that. The parameters of anybody's action is determined by the way that they think.
Mm.
So basically, if you have someone who educates you and determine what level of information gets into your head, they are your master. You are not a free person.
Mm.
So because you are going to operate basically on the concepts that you're exposed to and the ideas that you have, that is what's going to control your action. So the first thing that we need to understand is we're not in a position where we control the information that goes into our mind.
Mm.
So anytime you're talking about freedom, the first thing you have to recognize is for you to be free, there is certain information that you must have.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you must do.
Yeah. And this is why I say if I am not liberated, I cannot liberate others. Because in my time traveling on this journey, I mean, there were a lot of people being trying to do, but they were not liberated. Right? So right now today, even us trying to come together, what keeping us from coming together? Because those that has not found themselves to be liberated from whatever system, whatever mentality is in their head, be it from local or foreign, it is still obstructing them. You understand? It is not allowing them to see, well, hey, my vision could come to reality. Our vision is that we could bring our people, that we could be self-sustainable,